Adolin stumbled to a halt.
It is finished. I am done.
He turned from Adolin and continued to walk away.
Like damnation itself you are!
Adolin raised his shard blade overhead. The assassin spun and slapped the weapon so hard with his own blade that Adolin distinctly heard something snap in his wrist. His blade tumbled from his fingers, vanishing. The assassin's hand slapped out, knuckles striking Adolin in the chest. Stunned, he sank to his knees.
I suppose I can kill one more on my own time.
Then he grinned, a terrible smile with teeth clenched, eyes wide, as if he were in enormous pain. Adolin awaited the blow. He looked toward the sky.
Father, I'm sorry.
He blinked as he made out something glowing in the air, drifting down like a leaf. A figure, a man.
Father!
The High Prince fell slowly, as if he were no more weighty than a cloud. White light streamed from his body in glowing wisps. Adolin blinked, certain he was delusional.
But no, that is Father.
Like one of the heralds themselves, coming down from the tranquiline halls. The assassin looked and stumbled back, mouth open in horror.
No! No!
And then, like a falling star, a blazing fireball of light and motion shot down in front of Dalinar. It crashed into the ground, sending out a ring of stormlight like white smoke. At the center, a figure in blue crouched with one hand on the stones, the other clutching a glowing shard blade. His eyes of fire with a light that somehow made the assassin seem dull by comparison. He wore the uniform of a bridgeman and bore the glyphs of slavery on his forehead. The expanding ring of smoky light faded, save for a large glyph, a sword-like shape, which remained for a brief moment before puffing away.
You sent him to the sky to die, assassin. But the sky and the winds are mine. I claim them, as I now claim your life. I can almost feel... Did I lash you?
His eyes had darkened, losing their sapphire blue quality.
To the ground? But why did you not die falling? No, I must have lashed you upward. Impossible.
He stepped back, a moment of surprise.
A moment to live, perhaps.
Kaladin felt the light working, the tempest within straining and pushing. He gritted his teeth. The color returned to his hand, and feeling, cold pain, suddenly flooded his arm, hand, fingers. Light began to stream from his hand.
No. No!
Whatever Kaladin had done to his hand had consumed much of his light, and his overall glow faded, leaving him barely alight. Still on his knees, gritting his teeth, Kaladin grabbed the knife from his belt, but found his grip weak. He almost fumbled the weapon as he got it free. He swapped the knife to his offhand. It would have to do. He threw himself to his feet and charged the assassin.
Have to hit him quickly to have a chance.
The assassin jumped backward, soaring a good 10 feet, his white clothing rippling in the night air. He landed with a lithe grace, shard blade appearing in his hand.
What are you?
Same thing you are. Windrunner.
You can't be.
Kaladin held up the knife, the few wisps of remaining light steaming from his skin. Rain sprinkled him. The assassin scrambled backward, eyes as wide as if Kaladin had turned into a chasm fiend.
They told me I was a liar. They told me I was wrong. Seth's son Valonim. Truthless. They named me Truthless.
Kaladin stepped forward as threateningly as he could manage, hoping his stormlight would last long enough to be imposing. He let it puff before him faintly, luminescent in the darkness. The assassin scrambled back through a puddle.
Are they back? Are they all back?
Yes.
I will take these bridgemen with me to my camp.
I'm afraid I cannot part with them.
Surely they aren't worth much to you. Name your price.
I'm not looking to sell.
I will pay 60 emerald broams per man.
Not for 1,000 each, Dalinar. Take your soldiers and go. Leave my property here.
Do not press me on this, Sadeas.
Suddenly, the tension was back. Dalinar's officers lowered hands to swords, and his spearmen perked up, gripping the hafts of their weapons.
Do not press you? What kind of threat is that? Leave my camp. It's obvious that there is nothing more between us. If you try to steal my property, I will have every justification in attacking you.
Dalinar stood in place. He looked confident, though Kaladin saw no reason why.
And another promise dies.
In the end, for all his good intentions, this Dalinar Kholin was the same as the others. Kaladin froze, then spun around. Dalinar Kholin had summoned his massive shard blade. It dripped beads of water from having just been summoned. His armor steamed faintly, Stormlight rising from the cracks. Sadeas stumbled back, eyes wide. His honor guard drew their swords. Adolin Kholin reached his hand to the side, apparently beginning to summon his own weapon. Dalinar took one step forward, then drove his blade point first into the middle of the blackened glyph on the stone. He took a step back.
For the bridgemen.
What?
The blade. In exchange for your bridgemen, all of them. Everyone you have in camp. They become mine to do with as I please, never to be touched by you again. In exchange, you get the sword.
Sadeas looked down at the blade, incredulous.
Oh, this weapon is worth fortunes. Cities, palaces, kingdoms.
Do we have a deal?
Father, no! You...
Dalinar raised a hand, silencing the younger man. He kept his eyes on Sadeas.
Do we have a deal?
Kaladin stared, unable to move, unable to think. Sadeas looked at the shard blade, eyes full of lust. He glanced at Kaladin, hesitated just briefly, then reached and grabbed the blade by the hilt.
Take the storming creatures!
Dalinar nodded curtly, turning away from Sadeas.
Let's go.
They're worthless, you know. You're of the 10 fools, Dalinar Kholin. Don't you see how mad you are? This will be remembered as the most ridiculous decision ever made by an Alethi High Prince.
It's time to end this, Isto. Call the fight. Award the victory to Relis and his team.
The woman kept her eyes forward, watching the duel.
Did you hear me?
She said nothing.
Fine, I'll end it then.
I am High Prince here, Dalinar. In this arena, my word is the only law granted me by the authority of the king. Your son has not surrendered and he is not incapacitated. The terms of the duel have not been met, and I will not end it until they have been. Have you no respect for the law?
Dalinar ground his teeth together, then looked back at the arena. Renarin fought one of the men.
The lad has barely any training in the sword.
In fact, as Dalinar watched, Renarin's shoulder began to twitch, pulling up toward his head violently. Adolin fought the other three, having cast himself among them again. He fought marvelously, but could not fend off all of them. The three surrounded him and struck. The pauldron on Adolin's left shoulder exploded into a burst of molten metal. Bits trailing smoke through the air, the main chunk of it skidding to the sands a short distance away. That left.
Please, Almighty.
Dalinar turned upon the stands full of spectating light eyes.
You can watch this. My sons fight alone. There are shard bearers among you. Is there not one of you who will fight with them?
He scanned the crowd. The king was looking at his feet.
Amaram. What of Amaram?
Dalinar found him seated near the king. Dalinar met the man's eyes. Amaram looked away.
No. What has happened to us? Where is our honor?
Honor is dead.
Dalinar turned and looked at Captain Kaladin. He hadn't noticed the bridgeman walking down the steps behind him.
But I'll see what I can do. If this goes poorly, take care of my men.
Spear in hand, Kaladin grabbed the edge of the wall and flung himself over, dropping to the sands of the arena floor below. stepped back.
Dalinar, what is this?
You cannot have my pain.
Dalinar.
Dalinar forced himself to his feet.
You cannot have my pain.
Be sensible.
I killed those children.
No,
I burned the people of Rathalos.
I was there, influencing you.
You cannot have my pain!
Dalinar stepped toward Odium. The god frowned. His fused companion shied back, and Amaram raised a hand before his eyes and squinted. Were those glory sprints spinning around Dalinar?
I did kill the people of Rathalos. You might have been there, but I made the choice. I decided. I killed her. It hurt so much, but I did it. I accept that. You cannot have her. You cannot take her from me again.
Dalinar, what do you hope to gain keeping this burden?
If I pretend I didn't do those things, it means that I can't have grown to become someone else.
A failure.
Something stirred inside of Dalinar, a warmth that he had known once before, a warm, calming light.
Unite them. Journey before destination. It cannot be a journey if it doesn't have a beginning.
Suddenly, awareness poured back into him. The Stormfather, distant, feeling frightened, but also surprised.
Dalinar? I will take responsibility for what I have done. If I must fall, I will rise each time a better man.